All right, we are live. We've been live for 13 seconds, apparently. Let me check our audio. Where are my headphones? Ugh, I'm unprofessional as heck tonight. So, I'm going to let people pile on in here. We're live at the Voice of College Football SEC, live Voice of College Football Alabama. And I'm getting an ad because why wouldn't I? We got 3 people in here already. Hi,
All
folks.
right.
If you've been around, you know me. I'm Zach Ramelius here at the Voice of College Football, Alabama, here with another Alabama postgame. I'm joined tonight with our new co-host, Christian Ballard of Ballard Sports Media. Christian, how you doing,
What's
man?
up? I'm doing good, Zach.
Before we get into this.
First off, I want to appreciate Mark Rogers and then Zach Ramelius for this opportunity here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm with Ballard Sports Media. I have run my own college football YouTube channel, or really a sports YouTube channel, but we mostly talk college football over there. And I'm working to be a big-time sports journalist one day, so I figured it would get me a start, and I've definitely picked up some opportunities along the way.
Sounds good, man. Well, we're here to talk about Alabama, LSU. LSU Tigers pull off the upset tonight against the Crimson Tide in shocking fashion, 32-31. Game goes to overtime. Brian Kelly decides to go for 2, which was the right call. When you're going for an upset like that, go for 2. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that was the right call. They get it by the skin of their teeth, and LSU wins for the second time since 2011, which is kind of crazy to think about. You knew this game was going to go down to the wire, Christian. When's the last time Alabama blew somebody out that was pretty good on the road?
It's been a while, man. I mean, I'm having a hard time thinking about it. I'm thinking back to maybe a 2015 Iron Bowl or something like that, or a shutout over LSU. Alabama does struggle on the road, and there are tough environments in the SEC, which they go to, and normally they can pull it out. And when I say, they pull it out, they struggle, but they win a close game. And unfortunately, they couldn't get that done tonight. And I will say this, I think we need chaos to make the college football playoff, because being a 2-loss team right now is not helping our case.
No, I think unless some craziness happens, which Alabama can help themselves in that craziness, beating Ole Miss next week. But unless some craziness happens, I think the season's about over.
Yeah.
You're no longer in control of your own destiny for even the SEC West.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you look at this game tonight. We had 2 games today. We had Georgia, Tennessee for the East, and we had tonight's game, which people didn't realize until maybe a couple days prior, where they looked at LSU and said, "Oh, they only have 1 conference loss like Alabama. They could take control of the division." And we had 2 SEC games where the divisions were in control of whoever won each of those games. And props to LSU. They got it taken care of tonight.
Yeah, props to LSU. Brian Kelly picks up his first real, huge win at LSU.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, we talked about – we'll get into the game here in a second. Everyone's made fun of Brian Kelly, and rightfully so. He's kind of a nerd and dorky, and he had the one dancing video. Guy can coach. I mean, he's a good coach. Yeah. Was he going to fit at LSU? We didn't really know, but he can coach. And so full props to LSU tonight. But coming from an Alabama side, the offense just did not – it didn't look coherent for a long stretch of this game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it really didn't. And go ahead.
Oh, my bad. Bryce Young, only 25 for 51. He had a lot of pressure in his face. You saw him trying to just step up, make some throws, and they were just ending up short because he couldn't get anything on it. Wide receivers, miscommunication, a couple miscommunication with Brooks where it was just man-to-man, and he thought he was going to peel off and Ball ends up down the sideline into the bench. Just a sloppy night all around for the Alabama offense. And I mean, what more is there to say? I mean, LSU ran the ball better. We talked about before the show, they finished drives better.
Yeah.
Go into all that for me.
Well, when you look at it, Alabama was 6 of 16 on third down efficiency. LSU was 5 of 12. Neither team really, had the better edge on third down. I mean, they both struggled, but there were some second down plays and even some first down plays where LSU was able to just keep it going. And I'll tell you what, Jaden Daniels is a dual threat guy that could probably be an NFL talent someday, in my personal opinion. He was 22
needs to polish a
of
little
32.
bit more as a thrower, but yeah.
Yeah. He was 22 of 32 for 182 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also was LSU's lead rusher in the game, 18 carries, 95 yards, and a rushing touchdown. He controlled this offense tonight in a big way, like he needed to, and it helped LSU in tremendous ways down the stretch.
Yeah, no, Jaden Daniels was really good tonight. He's never going to be a great thrower. I mean, I agree. He could get in the NFL, and there are guys that could help him, but I just don't think he'll ever be like a really good thrower of the football. But I've been wrong before. But yeah, he was in total control tonight. I knew that the Crimson Tide were in trouble tonight when the game started off and both teams weren't doing anything. LSU has notoriously started slow this season against everybody. Anybody with a pulse, really. Tennessee, they were just getting their butts kicked right away. Florida State getting their butts kicked right away. And when Alabama couldn't pounce early and they let that crowd, that outstanding LSU night crowd, really find its legs and stay in the game, you're in trouble. And part of that is Jahmyr Gibbs is a fantastic running back, 15 carries, 99 yards. It's not consistent enough.
Yeah.
You watch Georgia, you watch some of these other teams, they can go on a meat grinder drive. And Alabama used to do this all the time. 5-yard gain, 6-yard gain, 6-yard gain, 4-yard gain, 12-yard play action pass, 8-yard run, 10-yard run. Used to be able to do it all the time. That's gone. And part of that is they don't have the offense anymore.
Yeah, I personally was live for this game on my channel, and I would say one of the things everyone kept saying, and I've seen it on social media so far tonight, is we need to get rid of Bill O'Brien. I don't know what went on with the play calling, but when you look at these drives of the game, and LSU got off to a rough start, but it was punt for LSU, interception for Bama. Our next drive was a punt. We give up a touchdown. We kick a field goal. It's the end of the half, and we come away with nothing. The second half, you think, okay, we're going to turn things around, and we take a lead 9-7. And then it starts to become a little bit of a shootout. But LSU just didn't go away. And there were some penalties on defense, some offsides, some holdings, pass interference. I mean, there were just a lot of different situations that got Alabama to the situation they're in now, which is a loss in Death Valley.
And again, we can't overlook that interception in the end zone. Maybe the first play from Bryce Young I've seen in a while where it looked like he lost his composure a little bit. Now he made up for it late in the game with that touchdown pass that, I don't know. There's not another quarterback in the country that can make that throw or make that play, because it wasn't like the most difficult throw in the world, but just escaping the pocket. Not a lot of guys that can do that, if any, in college football at least. But that turnover was horrible.
Yeah.
After a pretty good opening drive, 8 plays, 78 yards, they were moving it. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, what happened there?
On Alabama's opening drive?
Yeah, the interception from Bryce Young.
I mean, so you had some big plays. First off, it was great to see a guy like Ja'Cory Brooks step up tonight. He had like a 20
Fantastic
or
game for
19
Ja'Cory
yard.
Brooks.
Oh, absolutely. And it started off with like a big play on that drive for like 19 yards. Um, we're having Jahmyr Gibbs catch over the middle, catch in the backfield. Cameron Latu made big plays. We get down all the way inside the LSU 5-yard line. And I don't know what happened exactly. It was 2nd and goal at the LSU 4, and Bryce Young was intercepted by Jarek Bernard Converse in the end zone. I don't know if he misread the coverage or if that was a great job by the defender, but that's one of those plays that you really hate to have as a quarterback, and you wish you could get back for your team. And from there, it just seemed like it kind of spiraled a little bit for this whole game, and kind of both sides. I mean, Alabama was outscored. It was 7-6 at the end of the half. Then they get outscored 7-3. They do end up going down and tying the game and outscoring LSU in the fourth quarter. So they did find a way to go down and make it a competitive game and take it to overtime. But there were so many mistakes made that you just wish you could have back if you're Bryce Young or if you're the defense. And I think it comes down to play calling, honestly.
We'll get into Bill O'Brien here in a second, but I'm going to just run through a couple things. You're listening to Alabama Postgame at the Voice of College Football. We're live here every week. Ballard here is going to join us now. So if you've been around for a while and you're tired of my voice, well, that's a good thing because we have somebody new that's here to help me. Join our college football call-in show over at Mark Rogers TV, 11:30. Join after this show. Don't go now. Join later.
Right.
But he does a wonderful job, of course, Mark, on his main channel. Subscribe, like the video, share the video. I mean, if you know a bunch of Alabama fans that want to vent or are excited after a big win, maybe next week against Ole Miss, send them here. We got comments on. I can see him. He can see him, right? You can see him. Join our Patreon. Just search Mark Rogers TV. And if you join our Patreon, subscribe to our Discord and talk college football all the time with a bunch of dorks, and I mean that lovingly, who just want to love college football and want to talk about it. Lord knows I do. So got that covered. Let's talk about Bill O'Brien. Let me look at comments real quick. Is Saban going to have a post-game press conference? I'd assume so. I mean, it's part of his contract. Sorry I didn't get to that earlier. I'm 12 minutes late on that one. Oh, well. So on the show last week, I defended, or 2 weeks ago, because we had the bye. I defended Bill O'Brien. Oh, you got a comment.
Hey, what's up, Adam? How you doing, man? I see him on my channel. He's a regular.
Good stuff. Bring him over. So we talked about Bill O'Brien, and I defended Bill O'Brien a little bit.
Right.
But what I also said was, and we talked about this before the show, in a way that unlike Lincoln Riley or Steve Sarkisian or these other great offensive minds you're seeing in the NFL and college, not creative in the run game.
Right.
The run game isn't consistent. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs can do amazing things, but if you pull up the stats right now, as I'm trying to, but my computer's being really slow tonight. 15 carries, 99 yards. That sounds really good. Take away along a 34, all of a sudden that's 14 carries for 65 yards.
Yeah.
We're getting closer. We're under 5 yards a carry now.
4.6 per carry on tonight's game, and we ran the ball 30 times.
So, for God's sakes, dog. So it's not consistent enough, in my opinion, and it never has been.
Yeah, I would agree
with the Alabama run game.
I remember back when we had guys like Derrick Henry or Mark Ingram or TJ Yeldon, and I remember those good old days when we used to pound the ball on the ground, and we used to just run it down defenses' throats. And now all of a sudden it's this passing game in college football, which is okay, but what's crazy is when there is a situation where we have to run the ball with Bill O'Brien calling that play, he goes the wrong way. He might use the wrong back. No, like I'm not going to take it away from our running backs. I don't know what the deal is. It's like really what it comes down to, I think, is he does call a run play when he's not supposed to, and when he should call a run play, he wants to try to throw the ball because of Bryce Young, which obviously he does a great job. Bryce does, but let him relax a little bit.
Yeah, in a game that was close throughout, like LSU was never up by like 15 points.
Right.
Bryce Young threw the ball 51 times compared to 30 runs.
Mm-hmm.
And my box score, where I have the box score stats, keeps going off with commercials. So that's always fun. Yeah, 51 throws to 30 runs. That's just it's not. I don't care how good your quarterback is. It's not sustainable.
It's not.
Especially when you don't have a wide receiving core that includes what Alabama has had for the last, handful of years, where they've just churned out first-round pick. And we've seen guys step up. Ja'Cory Brooks has stepped up. Kobe Brentis has stepped up in certain games. But it's just not it's just not the same right now.
No, it's really not the same. It's just so weird, honestly, is how I could put it. I don't know how to put it, but like you said, it's not the same type of offense, that we had at the start of the season against a team like Utah State, or I know week 2 we struggled against Texas, but
another road
even
game
after
that this team struggled in.
Yeah. But we found ways to be really good on offense against good teams, such as, even though we lost, Tennessee, Arkansas. You go back to the Vanderbilt game. Vanderbilt was a good team, at least when we played them going into the game. So we know that against good competition that Alabama can find some rhythm on offense. And, if they call the plays right, if they have the schematics, they can be creative and they can put together great scoring drives.
Here's another thing that's been plaguing the Tide all year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an issue that's been brought up a lot. Penalties.
Oh, gosh.
Penalties. Tonight, 9 penalties for 92 yards. Set a record for penalties against Tennessee.
Yep.
I don't remember the exact number, but a ton of penalties against Texas. It's been ridiculous. I've never seen a Nick Saban team look this undisciplined.
Now, is this something that you would consider starts with Coach Saban?
When it comes to things like that, I don't want to blame it all on Saban, obviously.
Right.
But when the same things keep happening and happening, it's got to be a little bit on coaching, right? Like,
it does.
Like, I know he's not coaching guys to pass interfere or hold or go off sides or false starts or whatever. But at some point, when it's been this ridiculous in terms of penalties, it's got to be a little bit on coaching.
It absolutely does. And when you look at the coordinator standpoint, here's why I think it's kind of on Nick Saban, obviously, as a head coach. But, and I'm not saying it's on him or I'm blaming him, but I'm thinking maybe if it's on anybody. Because think about it. The coordinators just call the plays. All they do is tell the quarterback, here's what the defense is doing. Here's what I need you to go out and do with your offense. Then you look at the defensive side. Hey, they're looking to try to run the ball, or it's a formation. They got 3 wideouts, and they got this formation or that formation. Here's what you got to do on defense. That's all the coordinators do. The penalties, pre-snap or like holding and everything, like it's kind of on the players. But you got to think that it does what you do on the field is a reflection of how you're coached. And it always goes back to head coach of your football team. And in this case, Nick Saban.
Yep. All right. I'm going to get to some comments.
All right.
Your friend Adam, not to mention Bryce playing his worst game, and Bama not practicing is killing him. Yeah, I think that's, especially when you have a wide receiver core as inexperienced as this one. Really, no weapons from last year came back. Like a big, like Latu's back and some other guy, but nothing significant from last year's back. Yeah, I agree. I think it's killing him because Ja'Cory Brooks had a good game, but there were still a couple times where, LSU's in press coverage. Bryce Young thinks he's going to peel off for like a comeback route, and ball ends up 10 yards up the sideline, and Brooks is still breaking downfield, running elbow with a corner from LSU. So yeah, I think the timing's just not there. I mean, Bryce Young should not be missing 26 throws.
He shouldn't be, no. And we know how good of a quarterback he is. Like, he's one of those quarterbacks you look at and say he can make almost any throw out there possible. The receivers are not stepping up and being disciplined enough to go up and catch the ball. Like, when you throw, you know how many drop passes we've had this year?
It's been a ridiculous amount.
It has been a ridiculous amount. And like wide open, or, maybe some cases defensive guys are on you. And yeah, sometimes Bryce can maybe misread coverage. It's okay. That happens. You're going to have those moments as a quarterback, but
yeah, even the best quarterbacks, Tom Brady's misread a coverage in his life. Like, it happens.
Of course. But these receivers are young, but at the same time, like, you would think by this point in the season they'd get it together. It's still an issue. And I think we saw that tonight.
Yeah. And I think part of it is, of course, Bryce Young not practicing. From an LSU fan, hopefully you're still here. Will LSU be in the playoff if they win the SEC? That's a great question. I don't know. Clemson goes down tonight. Thank goodness. They're not good. Like, they just weren't. But right now, the playoff picture's looking what? Michigan, Ohio State, Tennessee, Georgia, TCU.
Yeah.
And I guess LSU USC will be up there if they can knock off Cal tonight. And Oregon and LSU potentially if they win the SEC. I think it'll be very difficult for LSU to creep into that group.
Right.
But it's not impossible. Like, if they win the SEC, they're going to have another win. They're going to have a win over Georgia. They play Texas A&M, who stinks, but it's another win. Who else do they got? They got anybody else? They got Arkansas. Yeah. But they'll have a win over Georgia. So it's possible. It's certainly possible. Just some things, they're going to have a lot of breaks.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say to that is I don't know, because of how good the SEC is. I know they got 2 losses, but, one of them being out of conference early on to Florida State right out the gate, one being to Tennessee, who compete.
Demolished them. That wasn't a game.
That's true. It was a demolishing. It was 40-13. What I will say is that I don't think there's SEC bias, although I know people out there want to say that. I just think that if it's a conference champion, especially in a conference like that, even if you have 2 losses, like, can you find much of a reason to leave them out? I mean, they win the conference, they win the conference.
They win the conference, they win the conference. I would just argue against, and LSU's a really good team. Like, the thing with college football, and people don't appreciate this enough, is you are allowed to improve as the season goes along. Right. Just because you look terrible in week 1, and let's face it, they should have won that game. They missed like 3 extra points and like 7 kicks, and a horrible, horrible game from them. They should have won that game. And if they win that game, they're right in the thick of things. LSU is. Because we're talking a great question. If LSU wins the SEC, are they in the playoff? But because they lost those 2 games, they're going to need help. If TCU wins out, they're in. They're probably in. Michigan or Ohio State's getting in. Maybe both. The other issue LSU is going to have is if Georgia's undefeated, they will be, going into Atlanta, and they lose, Georgia's still probably going. And then it's a pick between LSU or Tennessee, and Tennessee just destroyed LSU, which I know LSU will be a conference champion, but Tennessee did destroy them in Death Valley. So I think it's going to be very difficult for them to make the playoff. Not impossible. And weird things
but
happen.
It's going to be fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch.
Weird things happen. Georgia struggled with Mizzou. Well, who says they don't go to Lexington in 2 weeks and lay an egg? TCU lays an egg against Texas, and then Michigan lays an egg against like Illinois or whatever, or Michigan gets blown out by Ohio State, or vice versa. All of a sudden, that knocks one of them out. They're going to need help, but that they're certainly in the fact that they have 2 losses. And we're able to talk about, like, could LSU make it? And I could see it, but I wouldn't predict it. Is a credit to Brian Kelly and that staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what we've been kind of poking around tonight, and if you want to talk about this, and we've had comments about it, Alabama season's over, right? As far as playoff is concerned.
Yeah.
Probably not winning. You're not winning the West. You're not going to make the playoff. You'll make a New Year's Six bowl game, and for some programs, making a New Year's Six, like if Tulane makes a New Year's Six, they're going to hang a banner for it, which they should. And Tulane's awesome to watch. If you don't watch Tulane football, do it. That's disappointing for Alabama. So what does Alabama do from here? Since the season's over, what changes need to be made over the next few weeks and the offseason to go into 2023? Because it's going to be a new quarterback. There could be there's going to be a ton of new pieces on defense. Yep. Will Anderson's gone. What do you think will be changing here at Alabama over the next 5 months?
Look, I don't know if the rumors are true about, Bill O'Brien being the coach of Canada, but if Alabama fans are really calling for him to get fired, and Nick Saban, who does not miss a detail of the game, sees fit, maybe we have to clean house a little bit and have to fire and find new coordinators. I don't know. That's a start. I know our recruiting is good. We'll have new faces. We'll have some experience. We'll get some guys back. You mentioned Bryce Young. He'll most likely go to the NFL. The quarterback situation is interesting. I think it most likely will be a guy in Jalen Milroe and then Ty Simpson behind him.
I think it's going to be Ty.
Oh, okay.
I think it's going to be Ty.
Nice.
I don't want to talk too much about 2023 because we still got a couple games or 3 games to play.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be Ty.
Okay.
I think with an offseason, he's going to get to a point where he can be the starter. I like Milroe. I think you can do things with him in certain packages. As you saw against Arkansas, like he's an insane athlete.
Yeah, he is.
But it would stun me if he got to a point where Nick Saban trusts him to throw the ball like he wants to throw the ball in the modern day of college football.
Okay.
I mean, he's and this isn't a shot because he did a lot of great things and he's doing great things today, but he's like a C version of Jalen Hurts throwing the ball right now, maybe a B version of Jalen Hurts. And I just, he ran Jalen Hurts. I don't really know the full story behind that, but Jalen Hurts transferred. I just don't see Milroe being the starter, but we'll see. We got plenty of time because a lot of our comments tonight are about Bill O'Brien, which isn't surprising.
Yeah.
Usually my comments are chock full of fire Bill O'Brien and fire Pete Golding. So.
Yeah. I see it everywhere, man. I mean, there's definitely, obviously, some changes that have to be made in Tuscaloosa right now. And it might be to fire the coordinators. It might be to maybe we have to keep them. Maybe they're not the issue. Maybe we have young players or whatever's going on. But there obviously is an issue. And especially we mentioned earlier with penalties, I think this is probably one of the most undisciplined Nick Saban teams I've ever seen. And
it's the
I don't
most
even think,
undisciplined. It's the
well,
most
yeah,
undisciplined team.
it's not even close. I mean, I've never seen so many penalties. I mean, there were so many in that Tennessee game. There were some
They set a
tonight.
school record.
Right.
I mean, I talked about it for like 5 minutes. I mean, I'm pulling up the box now.
Yeah.
Full box. I want team stats. Tennessee, 17 penalties, 130 yards. Tonight, 92 yards in penalties.
Mm-hmm.
Texas, I believe they're almost at a record. Team stats. Texas, 15 penalties for 100 yards. Can't happen, especially when you go on the road. And you're playing a great team like Tennessee or a really good team in LSU or even a team that's building like Texas. You can't do that and go on the road and win games.
Yeah.
Alabama, the SEC this year is pretty – Georgia's at the top, but even they've had their struggle wins. And the rest is pretty close. It's getting closer. It's not Georgia, Alabama, LSU, or Florida or somebody, and then everybody else, and then Vanderbilt at the bottom.
Right.
Everything's getting a little closer. So you can't do things like that where you go on the road, you commit 15 penalties, 17 penalties, 14 penalties, and expect to win football games, especially when you don't have the consistent running game where you're being able to churn out 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, because a lot of these penalties happen on 2nd and 8. And unfortunately for Alabama, unlike some teams in the SEC, like South Carolina or teams across the country, if they get a false start or a negative play, it's not like, oh, that's the drive. We're not picking up 13 yards or 15 yards on 2 plays. But you can't consistently overcome that drive after drive after drive after every set of first down after sets of first down. You just can't do it.
No, you really can't.
I mean, I don't know. I've talked about this on the show. Ballard here is a huge Alabama fan. Am I right? You have been since you were. I mean, your ringtone was the fight song, right?
Yeah.
Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
I'm not an Alabama fan, which is why I think I do a decent job here. I can be pretty impartial. And it's great to have an Alabama fan here to bring that voice on. And I'm super happy that he's here. It's going to be a lot of fun next several weeks and for bowl games talking with him. So I could see the disappointment when he came on. And he's doing a great job tonight for first show. We got another comment. Can we finally remove Bama from the conversation? Yeah, we talked about this for a little while. Yeah, I think you can pretty safely take Bama out of the playoff right now.
Ready for
which is weird, right? Because they've made like every single one besides 2019.
Yeah.
When Tua got hurt and Mac Jones threw like 7 picks at Auburn.
That's true.
Boy, after that game, I did not think Mac Jones was any good.
How wrong next was year, I? Though.
What?
Yeah.
How wrong?
The next year after.
Yeah, 2020, he was unbelievable. He was putting up Burrow numbers.
Right.
So maybe that happens with Ty. But Bryce is gone. It's just been Is this the most disappointing Alabama season since when?
Since, I don't know, man. I mean, 2019 was very young and we had a lot of injuries.
And
We
yeah, that
don't
I
really
did.
have
I
a lot.
wasn't in, and you were in the playoff hunt until the last week when your backup quarterback in Nick Saban's house of horrors threw 2 pick sixes.
Right.
If there's one building in the SEC, Nick Saban has, it's Auburn. Or one stadium, like building, like it's basketball. So I'm thinking 2010. That team returned
Yeah.
almost everybody and lost 3 games. Could this team lose
Yeah,
3
I
games?
think. Yeah, they did lose 3 games. They lost 2 in the regular season, one to South Carolina, one to Auburn in the Iron Bowl against Cam Newton, who obviously led the Auburn Tigers to the championship that
And they
year.
lost to LSU.
Did we lose to LSU that year?
Lost
Because
to
I was
LSU
thinking
because
we lost the bowl game.
nah, they beat Michigan State and Kirk Cousins in the bowl game like 49-3.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the
That's
Capital
right.
One Bowl, and everyone was like, "Oh, well, Alabama doesn't care about this," and then they just destroyed Sparty. So I remember that because I didn't bet. I was 14 in 2010. So
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, it's just a disappointing year. Could Alabama lose another game this year? They got Auburn, who's going to have and it's at home, so I don't think they'll lose Auburn. But they go on the road next week to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
They could lose
One of the
that
better
game.
one of the better offenses in the SEC right there.
And their run game's fantastic.
Yes.
Their run game's
really
and yes,
is.
they got hammered by LSU, but you just lost to LSU and you're going on the road.
Yeah.
Again. And Ole Miss has still got something to play for. Like LSU, they won tonight and they've looked pretty good, but they're not unfallible. Like I don't think LSU is like a great team. I don't think there's really any great teams in college football except maybe Georgia. It's not unthinkable that LSU drops another game to Arkansas or they lose to Texas A&M or something stupid happens. And right. Ole Miss is going to the SEC championship. So Ole Miss is going to have something to play for next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, they're the team with everything to lose and everything on the line, whereas Alabama at this point, and I'm not saying we need to use this as an excuse to go lose another game or anything, because we obviously want to win every game we play. Nick Saban makes that very clear. But at this point, like I said earlier, like what does Alabama have to lose right now? Now that they already lost another game.
That's going to be the interesting thing is what do you do now?
Right.
Where do you go from here? Are you your season's over? Nothing really matters. Like New Year's Six, what's the difference to Alabama? What's the difference between a New Year's Six and the Citrus Bowl or whatever? Like, what's the difference to Alabama?
Right.
Do you have that mentality, or do you have the mentality of like, well, let's just go kick some butt? Like what do they do? If I had to bet, I would say they'd go out because they're not going to lose to Austin Peay. They're not going to lose to Auburn. So there's 2 more. They'll get to 9 wins. It's just going to like, can they beat LSU or beat Ole Miss on the road in Oxford and get that 10th win and probably play in a New Year's Six Bowl?
Yeah, well, I think if you're Nick Saban, knowing how he is, he said this when he first got hired. I remember listening to his introductory press conference, and he said, I want to win every game we play. It doesn't matter. And I've never gone out to play a game. We've never gone out to play a game that we did not want to win. So Nick Saban never takes any game lightly. We got Austin Peay in a couple weeks. I know people want to sit there and say Bama's going to blow them out like 55-0, something like that. It's a cupcake game before the Iron Bowl, like it always is. Nick Saban's not going to take it lightly. He wants this team to be disciplined, well-focused, have mental toughness, play with discipline, and just play to a standard of excellence every single game, no matter who it is. And basically what I'm trying to say is Nick Saban's not a quitter, no matter where he ends up at the end of the season.
And I ultimately I don't think it's up to Saban.
Right.
I think I don't want to bet either way. I think they'll be fine. Like I think they'll win in Oxford next week.
Okay.
But it wouldn't stun me if guys like Dallas Turner or other guys that don't have, Will Anderson are like, well, our season's over. I got the NFL coming up. I don't want to get hurt. I just don't care anymore. We've seen it happen.
Right.
Guys get to the end of the year, season's over, don't care. And we'll see. The interesting thing for Alabama is this will be the first time ever we've really seen a ton of guys that are going to sit out a bowl game. Because they're not in the playoff. Like, what is Bryce Young's going to sit out that bowl game? Unless he's a hero, which he very well might be, because he's awesome.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting.
It will be.
So from an Alabama fan perspective, talk about, how do I want to phrase this? Talk about your thoughts going into the game. What did you think was going to happen?
I did think LSU was going to make it a game, even though history has shown, like, if you go back and look, the last 2 trips to Death Valley, we've shut them out and played a great defensive game. I didn't see a shutout.
Are you talking about real trips? We're not counting 2020, right? 2018, 2016, shut them out?
2018, 2016, yeah, the real trips.
Okay, so the last 2 times they've played in front of fans in Death Valley.
Right. They shut them out. I think one year was 10-0. The other year in 2018 when Tua was first starting for us, it was 29-0. That has been a stadium that Alabama has gone into and owned and taken over. So my initial thoughts going into this game were, been there, done that, but at the same time, don't get cocky, don't get, all bent out of shape or get lazy. Like, I hope that this team plays to a standard and doesn't have what they had against, like, Tennessee. That's kind of what happened tonight. My thoughts going into this game were, as long as they keep their composure, everything should go according to plan. They should get the victory, and we should get out of here with a win and still control our own destiny. And obviously that's not what took place.
I had similar thoughts. I thought this would be a dogfight. Like, outside of 20 was it the first year of Burrow, 2018? That was 29-0, right?
Yes.
I mean, outside of that year and the COVID year, so before that, so I mean, we're talking 6 years ago. But it's always been a dogfight. Like, even 2016, it was 10-0. It was 3-0 for the longest time, or 7-0. I don't remember which. And I was in college. Oh my God, I'm old. And even 10-0, you're not like, oh, we're blowing them out. 2014,
right,
goes to overtime. 2012, obviously, the screenplay to Yeldon. Lost in 2010. Lost in 2008. So I had a feeling it was going to be a good game.
Right.
I just thought Bryce Young would make a couple more plays than Jalen Daniels. You can argue he did. You could also argue the interception, he didn't. So it just didn't go Alabama's way tonight. And now, what are your thoughts kind of coming out of the game? We've talked about the future. Now, what are you thinking of the 2022 Alabama Crimson Tide?
Definitely below expectations. I thought they were not necessarily lucky, but they were blessed to get to the college football playoff last year after all the pieces they lost in 2020. To have Bryce Young win the Heisman last year, to have all these new receivers and new faces, and to win the SEC, to get in at 12, was it 12-1? Because remember, we did lose a game to A&M.
Yeah, which was when I talked about a few weeks ago when they lost to Tennessee. and everybody was writing the season
Yeah.
off. I'm like, guys, they lost to a worse team on the road last year, and it was fine.
Yeah.
It ended up being okay. But now, obviously, nope.
Right. So, I mean, you had a good situation last year and a better situation with all these new pieces. Like they say, we say at Alabama, like we don't rebuild, we reload, and you kind of saw that last year. I thought they were blessed to make the college football playoff. I thought they were blessed to make the national championship, and we didn't win the championship. I was disappointed a little bit, but then I thought about it, and I'm like, with everything we lost after the COVID year, to see what this team was able to do after that as a young team with a young quarterback, that's awesome. So then I go into this season and I'm like, it has to only go up from here, doesn't it? Like the next step after losing a championship is potentially winning a championship. And I went into this season with expectations of that. And now it's like, man, way to go below the belt.
LSU fans and Georgia fans have found the comment section, which was always going to happen. They always seem they never want to watch me when Bama wins, or now us when Bama wins. But when Bama loses, they'll all hop right in. That's okay. It's just sports. It's all in good fun. Yeah, I think I would have the same opinion. Like I thought they were. I didn't. When you get to the playoff, really, there usually most years there's 3 teams that can win it, and the 4th team's just kind of there to get blown out by the 1 seed.
Yeah.
So I thought they were going to be one of those 3 teams, and then depending on the seeding, what happens, and then it's kind of a crapshoot on who wins the title, unless you're 2020 Alabama or 2019 LSU, where you're just going to blow through everybody and win. I thought they were definitely going to put themselves in that situation, and they just didn't. So disappointing year. I mean, like you said, Alabama reloads; they don't rebuild. They're one of what? Probably 2-3 teams in the country that do that.
Yeah.
Georgia doesn't. At this point, Georgia's not rebuilding at any point.
Right.
And who else?
Maybe Ohio State.
Maybe Ohio State. Yes, that's a good one. And I thought Clemson might hit that trajectory, but no. I was like, oh, maybe the 3-loss thing was kind of a blip, and it was just like, okay, they lost on the road to Kenny Pickett, and they lost on the road to somebody. Oh, they lost to Georgia, which whatever. That happens.
Yeah.
And they lost to somebody else. I don't really remember. So I think it's just those 3 teams, and everybody else, there are teams, Michigan can get up there to like be at a playoff level. We've obviously seen Clemson do it. We've seen Florida get to that level before the cleat yeet against LSU. We've seen LSU get to that level, and they're looking like they're building back to that level. But outside of Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, we haven't seen a program maintain that. And when those kind of programs don't make the playoff, it's a disappointment.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
We got a comment from Cole Adams. Feel bad for Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs. 2 guys, lights out ballers. We building something in Baton Rouge right now. Yeah, I think you're right on both fronts. I think both of those kids played their hearts out, and they have all year. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is the team's leading rusher and receiver. When's the last time that happened anywhere?
It might say a lot about how good he is, but it also might say a lot about we need some receivers right now.
or at least get him to develop. And I'm sure Nick's going to have to transfer work, because Jermaine Burton was supposed to be that guy, and he hasn't worked.
Yeah. We also had a guy in Tyler Harrell, too.
Yep, and he's just been MIA. I know he was hurt for a long time, and just I kept waiting, like, okay, every week I'd get on here, and they'd be like, hey, where's Tyler Harrell? And I'm like, he's hurt, but I thought he was coming back this week.
Right.
We got from Cousin Eddie, Alabama's not a good team. What do you mean by good team? Because if you're talking about in the vast world of college football, they're a good team.
Right.
7-2, and they're probably, they're 7-2, and at worst going to be 9-3, right?
Yeah.
Now, are they a championship team? Clearly not.
No.
Clearly not. So, I mean, does it make them a great team? No. But are they a good team? Yeah, they're a good team. If you would beat 90% of college football, you're a good team. One more comment from Cole. Money would still be on Alabama above Ohio State or Michigan, but pretty much anybody but Georgia, Tennessee, and LSU.
Interesting.
My thing is, I think of Alabama, and I can't prove this other than tonight's game went to overtime and LSU won on a 2-point conversion, which was the right call. And full credit to Brian Kelly, because not all the coaches have the cojones to do that. If these two teams play in a neutral field, Alabama's winning it.
I agree.
And I don't mean that as a shot to LSU fans. Like, you guys have a good team, and you're gonna be with Brian Kelly. LSU is gonna go on the rise. Brian Kelly wins wherever he goes. Earlier, Cole mentioned they're building something. Yeah, they are. They are. They absolutely are. But with Alabama struggles on the road, I don't think LSU wins it on a neutral field or obviously in Bryant Denny. But for the rest of those teams, again, Tennessee and neutral field, I think Alabama beats them. Georgia, I don't know. That's one I don't know. Georgia's.
That's like the one team. That's the outlier.
Yeah, and I thought that last year too, and then we go to Atlanta and Alabama kicks the crap out of them. So
right.
And then loses their best receivers and loses them in the national title. But still, when both teams are fully healthy, or as healthy as one can be in early December in college football, you kick the crap out of them. So,
oh yeah.
So for the folks around, why don't you give them a little bit about yourself, man? I think we've touched on a ton of stuff. We can keep going, but talk about yourself for a little bit. Give a shout out, whatever you want to mention for yourself, so people can go follow you wherever. Or we've kind of hit a point here. Take a breather.
Yeah, so I'm making I have called into Mark Rogers' shows before, but I am officially making my college football voice of college football debut. I do appreciate Mark Rogers for the opportunity, and of course Zach for letting me join him on
Happy
here.
to do it.
Yeah, man. Thank you. You can follow me on YouTube. I have my own channel at Ballard Sports Media. We're working to get to 800 subscribers. We're getting really close. I do all kinds of great college football content, which is kind of what I'm working to be, is a sports journalist, but more so in the field of college football. If the good Lord sees fit that it be in some other area, then so be it. But for right now, I'm working with a lot of great college football. We also do a little bit of NFL too. So make sure you guys go follow me and subscribe at Ballard Sports Media.
Yeah, the best way to get better at talking or being in front of a camera is just doing it.
Yeah,
I learned that in school when I got my degree in sports broadcasting. So, you're a big Alabama fan, of course. When did you start becoming? When was the? And ladies and gentlemen, let us go through, because this is the first time we're doing this, and I think we've done a good job tonight. I was expecting there's been some awkward pauses, but that'll come. Especially over a streaming thing like StreamYard and YouTube. But I think we've had pretty good chemistry. So, and you've done a great job, man. I'm really happy that you're here, because
thank you.
I'm glad I got some help. But when did you start becoming an Alabama fan?
So I've always liked sports and competition. I became an Alabama fan because my parents are Alabama fans. They actually went to Alabama. They met in Alabama. So for the longest I can remember, since I was like 3 years old, they've been teaching me Roll Tide. And I used to just kind of watch a little bit of the game and then go play with toys as a kid. But as I got older, I got into college football more. And just kind of focused in on the game and pulling for the Tide, win or lose, and wearing, gear like this. And so I would say I wouldn't be an Alabama fan if not for my parents kind of putting that on me. Not forcing it. It wasn't like that, but I just kind of, it was influenced,
Of course, man. Your son was a walk-on for saving at LSU. Retype that. I think you had a couple mistakes. Okay, well, we got that. Let me run through a couple more things, and we'll kind of wrap things up, give some final thoughts. If you guys got any comments or anything you want to talk about, bring it in. Here's the thing with these kind of shows, guys. We'll go as long as you want us, or until one of us is just like we tap. Kurt Angle's got us in the ankle lock. We're done. We'll go as long as you guys want us to. But we want to hear your comments. We want to hear your thoughts. And not only that, subscribe, like the video, share it to your friends. Guys, we talk about Alabama football. Everybody knows about Alabama football. Bring them in. Join our Patreon, search Mark Rogers TV. And if you join our Patreon, you can join our Discord and talk about college football all the time with a bunch of crazy people who love this sport, who talk about it to themselves in the shower. Or is that just me? Because you are listening to the Alabama Postgame at the voice of college football here at Mark Rogers TV. He said it a bunch. I also want to say thanks to Mark for letting us do this. I've been doing this now this is my second season. A lot of fun getting to interact with you guys, and hopefully we get some more interaction as the night wears on, because the freaking Astros won the World Series, and I went to a crappy football game today, and I watched a ton of really good ones when I got home, but yeah, just been a weird day for me. So if you guys have any thoughts about the game, LSU, Alabama, neutral fans, what did you guys think of today's game? We want to respond to you guys. We want to talk to you guys. Questions, comments, thoughts. What does Alabama do in the future? What does Alabama look like in 2023? What does the rest of the season hold? Who are your playoff teams? Talk about it all, because everything changes. The playoff picture changes when Alabama loses. Not only did Alabama lose, Clemson lost.
Right.
2 teams gone. Probably gone. Clemson's not going to get the wins to climb back into that tier, and Alabama's going to have too many teams to jump with 2 losses. So I can see how many of you are in here. I have a counter. So leave your comments, leave your thoughts. As we kind of finish wrapping things up here on Alabama post-game here at the Voice of College Football. We're live every week. We'll be back next week. Next week's a 2:30 kick, right?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
For
the Ole Miss game.
Yep, 2:30 kick in Oxford. Was it weird to you that tonight's game wasn't on CBS? I know last year's game was on ESPN, and I think 2020's was too. But it just feels like this game's always on CBS, especially in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I know it's always a night game, but Brad and Gary can always call it on CBS, even at a night game.
Yeah, they've done it before.
Yeah.
With they'll have like Ole Miss, Arkansas or something at 2:30, and then they'll have Alabama, LSU at night. But I guess it's something we got to get used to, since the CBS is doing Big Ten starting next year. So you're going to hear Kurt and Chris calling a bunch
more
of these
SEC,
games.
I guess.
And guys, leave your comments and thoughts about this game before we get too far on this tangent. Can I just say, I like Brad Nessler, I like Gary. I think they're a fine announcing duo. And this isn't a CBS-only problem. I'm not that upset that CBS is going away. I'm tired of 4.5-hour games on CBS at 2:30. That Tennessee game, I didn't go live till like 7 o'clock, and I had plans, and that game just would not end. And I got on basically when the game was over. I was like, all right, game's over. I'm not going to do any of this. I'm just going to get on, because there was a lot to talk about. I'm like, this game is just not ending. And that's not just an SEC. That's a college football problem, because tonight's game, we didn't get on until 10:15?
Yeah,
we've been going for an hour, so about 10:15, and the game started at 6. Now, granted, it went overtime, but still, it was like 9:45, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to schedule this because Alabama was driving, and they ended up tying it. I was like, all right, I'm going to set this for 10:15. I'll get in here. Ballard and I have a little bit to talk. We can kind of set some things up. And then I was like, oh, God, we're going OT. I've already set this up. Thankfully, you know way more than I do, and you know what you're talking about. So we were just able to kind of kick in here and get going.
Yes,
My day started at 6 a.m. After this is done, I'm going to bed.
I'm with you there.
I'm looking forward to it. But any final thoughts you kind of have about this game? And you don't have to be short about it. You can extrapolate a little bit. Leave your comments, guys. For real,
I mean,
if you're listening.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say was, I mean, I don't know exactly like I said before, I don't know what the expectations for this game were, other than if you're an Alabama fan, you expected to win. And if you were an LSU fan, you expected your team to win, and you got that tonight. Congratulations. Just a lot of mistakes on Alabama's part, especially there towards the end. They kind of gave the game away in overtime, and I credit LSU for the victory. I'm not going to take anything away from them. But obviously, Alabama, their season was in the hands of LSU and what they did against them. And sadly, they blew it tonight. So we'll see what they do going forward in the postseason and whatever bowl game, whoever they play. I look forward to it. But, next year, new year. So
that's fair. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts too. Is like, all right, LSU just ended your season in Baton Rouge in front of an amazing crowd, which it always is at night for Alabama, or at night anywhere, or any team really in Tiger Stadium. The main thing I keep thinking about is, where does this team go from here? Where do the players on this team go? What does the leadership on this team do? Are they just going to roll over and be like, okay? And we'll know next week. If Ole Miss comes out, and I don't think even if Alabama has a bad game and Ole Miss has a great game, Ole Miss necessarily is going to blow them out, because I don't think Ole Miss is. I don't think Jackson Dart's a quarterback that's going to blow anybody out at Alabama's level. The running game is great, but is Ole Miss jumping up 14-0? Are they jumping up 10-0? What is that first quarter going to look like? Because if Alabama gets down, I'm just interested to see how that goes. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't want to call a bunch of college kids quitters. That's just not a word I like throwing around. But how are they going to react to this loss and basically their goals being ended? What are they? How are they going to react? Are they just going to kind of, all right, now it's time to get ready for the NFL, or is it time to kick ass? Excuse me. That's kind of where I'm at.
I agree, and I hope it's that second one too. By the way,
I played for Nick at LSU. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's sick. God, 2003, 2004. LSU Nick Saban just doesn't feel like a thing, does it?
LSU and Saban?
Yeah, it's Nick Saban coaching at LSU. I was like 7. I didn't even watch college football.
I was in diapers.
I wasn't watching college football. I didn't really start until like 2006. 2007 was like the first. Michigan, App State beating Michigan was like, and Mizzou being incredible was like the first year I really watched. Like, I sat down on a Saturday and just watched college football all day. And now I have 2 TVs and my laptop and my phone, and I'm plugged in everywhere. So just because I want to watch everything, so I can come on here. And if someone wants to bring about, especially when I was by myself, and we're doing the SEC channel, and I'll talk about Alabama for like 40 minutes, and someone's like, so what'd you think of the Tennessee-Mississippi State game? I want to be able to talk about that.
Yeah.
And give a well-informed opinion, other than, Jarrett Guntano sucks. I don't know. Hendon Hooker looks okay. What'd you think of that game, by the way, real quick?
Which one? The
Tennessee, Georgia.
Well, I was hoping that we would win the West and we'd get another shot at Tennessee. So I was kind of hoping Tennessee would
Tennessee
win.
fans were hoping.
But Georgia just yeah. Tennessee being number 1 in the initial playoff poll, I get it. They've looked phenomenal, and they still control their own destiny, and they might, still end up getting a playoff spot if they win out. But Georgia was just a better team, especially early on in that half. It came down to Tennessee did slow down Georgia's offense in the second half, but they did not find answers for Georgia's defense.
Yeah, part of me wonders if Georgia was like, they're not doing anything against us. Let's slow it down.
Right.
Let's see. We got a comment from Cole, and this one's for you, my friend. I'm sure he meant Ballard. He said he was on a speak, like he was doing like a voice to text kind of thing. So I'm sure it's what he said. That's for you, my man. You can see it, right?
Yeah. Glad to see you're pursuing your dreams. Fans love Film Breakdown and want an insight. We'll follow faithfully for that. You got the presence in front of Mike, work behind the curtain. I appreciate it.
And we will. I mean, this is our first night. We'll get there. It'll be all right. We've done a great job. I think we've done a great job. This is the most fun I've had doing a show since probably post SEC championship game last year, because I had like 100 viewers and they all just told me that Alabama sucks, even though they just won 41-24 with Georgia. But whatever. This is the most fun I've had since that, because this year, let me tell you, doing it by myself, like everybody hopped in for Tennessee, and that was fun. But like, people don't care what I have to say about a 58-0 win over Utah State or Southern Miss, or no one cares what I have to say. So having someone to bounce off ideas from, someone that loves this program and knows way more about it than I do, it's going to be fun for me. Because we have one or more of those games coming up in Austin Peay, where I was dreading it for a little while until I got the email, because I was like, oh God, there's no one's going to listen to me, even though you should all come back for every game. We'll be here every week, us two talking, and things are only going to get better, folks. We've already brought the goods, and it's only going to get better. So think about that. But yeah, guys, we've been going for about an hour. Anything else you want to add, Mr. Ballard, from Ballard Sports Media?
Just Alabama's got to shake this off, go take care of business against Ole Miss next week, and just kind of do what they can the rest of the way. And really, again, I appreciate you and Mark for giving me this opportunity on this post-game show.
Happy to do it. Happy to have help.
Yeah. Appreciate everyone that showed up in the comments, too.
Oh, yeah. Commenters are great. I mean, they'll rib you a little bit because we've got some of those guys. And you have guys like Cole who are just here and they want to talk to you and they want to get your opinions out. And that's awesome. That's what we love about this silly sport.
Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't love talking about this stuff, man? We only get to do it 13, 14 times a year. So if your team's in the playoff, 15 times maybe. Usually Alabama, we get to do it 15 times, but not this year. Yeah. Any other, final thoughts? I didn't mean to interrupt, but.
No, that's pretty much all I got.
Okay. Of course, man. I'm going to wrap things up, guys, if that's okay with you. If you want to keep going, we can. But if you're good to go, I mean, I think we've touched on everything. Alabama, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. If I get any comments, we'll, of course, touch on them. Alabama loses 32-31 to the Louisiana State Tigers, which I don't know about you, but saying Louisiana State always puts like my brain in a pretzel.
Yes.
I don't know how many times I've actually said it. You're listening to Alabama Postgame at the voice of college football. Guys, we're going to be here every week. And now we're joined by Ballard here. We're going to be here next week, 2:30. Oh, God, it's a CBS game, so we'll probably be on like 6:30, depending on how the game goes. We'll be right here at Voice of College Football SEC, Voice of College Football Alabama, breaking it down, talking about it. Mark's live right now. Join our Voice of College Football call-in show at 11:30. It started 11:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm in Central, so it started an hour ago. But you guys hop over there and join Mark for his show. He's going to do a wonderful job, I'm sure. Subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends, share it with groups. if you know a ton of Alabama fans who just want to vent to a couple dorks, no offense, man, who love talking college football, send them our way. We'll talk to them, and we'll, if they have rage and whatever, well, good. That's what we want to see. We love communicating with our audience. Join our Patreon. Search Mark Rogers TV. You guys know what Patreon is. If you're on a YouTube live stream, you know what Patreon is. And if you join our Patreon, join our Discord. And you get to talk about college football all the time, signing up at patreon.com. Really, there's no reason not to. But I want to thank Christian Ballard for being here. His first show, I thought he knocked it out of the freaking park.
Yes.
You can catch his live streams for every Alabama show. I'm Zach Ramelius. You can catch me on Twitter. Just write down my name. It's right there. You'll find me. I'm Psycho Z50. Old Tyler Hansbrough reference. You might be too young.
Yeah.
I'm 26, and I can't believe I'm saying that. But thank you guys all for being here tonight as Alabama goes down at Tiger Stadium in Death Valley. We'll be back next week. Have a good night. Have a great weekend. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.